Hi, welcome to Trinity Update. I'm Suzanne Dowdy. I don't know if any of you remember in December 2015 when we got the news that the Holy Father in Rome had announced that St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have a new bishop appointed, Father Gerard County. And everybody said, wow, great, they're going to have a bishop. And then we heard he's a Trini. And you heard people saying, a Trini? Who is he? Who is Father Gerard County? I remember. And then, of course, in February of this year, Father Gerard County became Bishop Gerard County. And we are just so privileged and happy to actually have him here on our Trinity Update set. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Good to be here.
So, everybody, you heard about, if you didn't hear about it before, you're here now, and people were saying, who's Father Gerard County at Trinity? You were way too long.
Well, 19 years on
Yes.
mission, you know. And we should go on mission for life,
Yes,
at least. That's how it's done.
Yes.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is, for all those people who were asking then, who may know a little bit more now, but who were asking then, who is Father Gerard County?
Well, as you said, I'm a Trinidadian. I was born in Sao and a family of 6, you know. And thanks be to God, my father is still alive. He was 96 one day before my ordination. My mother died very many years ago. And I went to school in Sawa, then I went to school at Woodbrook Secondary, my secondary schooling there. After that, I worked at a banking institution for about 9 years before taking the decision to enter religious life.
Well, let me stop you there. 2 things. Did you know Father Robert Christo in those days?
No, just after. We
Okay.
met after, and recently, not too long ago.
Because you share the same banking
Yes, and there
history
are quite a few
Yes,
Father
who
Carlo
in-
Fortuny also worked at the
who
bank
in
7 years
banking.
ago, and some religious sisters also.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And I don't know if I should stop you here to ask you, you know, how in the midst of a banking career did you receive that call?
That's very interesting. I think it was, on reflection, it was always there, but you try to not take it on. But I must admit, trying to live my Christian life and so on, and it just grew. A very influential person, that was Father Nolly Knox. He was my parish priest, Sao. And yes, he was very influential, and I really like how he worked and operated, and very pastoral, a true pastor. That influenced me a lot. And you could try to ignore the call, but it is always
Only
there.
so long, yeah.
And it's something you have to respond. You have to take a decision what you're doing. And I thought, look, let me respond. But what is very interesting with me, at that time, the formation director was Father Joseph Harris, the now Archbishop. And I was given the opportunity to move into the formation house in March, end of March of 1988. And continue working in the bank with my car and so on. So living in and continue working, that was a good help, good experience to help me with that decision. By August, I decided, yes, you know, I will take the chance. I will go into it. So I resigned, or I took leave of absence, which the then Archbishop wasn't too pleased with, you know.
Because leave of absence, it sounded temporary, or?
Yes, you know. And I started my studies in September, and yes, when I felt, you know, okay, I eventually resigned officially in February.
Now, you said you have 5 siblings.
Yes.
Any of them are religious?
No.
You're laughing, all right.
Religious, but we are Christian people.
Yes,
and we live our faith.
But nobody called.
But I said no because I remember a few years ago coming into the airport, one of my brother works in with these companies that brings in
like an import-export company, yeah.
So the immigration guy asked me, "County, you know?" I said, "And you are a priest?" Not my brother is a bad person, but you know. And yes, so that's the kind of reaction. But no, we're a religious family in the sense of we are people of faith, and we try to live our faith out.
All right, but nobody else called to religious life as such.
No.
And so. But
well, I'm the last also.
Okay, all right. Now, your parents obviously would have had, besides Father Knox being, you know, a mentor.
Oh yes. My mother, they always encouraged us to go to church, and that was a very part of our family. A very interesting image. I was just speaking to my brother recently of my father. We would get up. If you look into the room, he'd be sitting at the bed praying from an old prayer book. My brother, I was talking to him in the States. And that's an image I have. My father was a police officer, special branch, but always a praying man.
Beautiful?
Trusted in God.
Yes.
And that's an image that remained with me. But no, my family, yes, my mother always encouraged us and so on. I remember when I started working in the bank, I would leave very early, like to be early. She said, you'll get down to Port of Spain early, you could go to Mass at the cathedral. I took her advice, and all my working career, I began going to Mass. I started with Mass. That became a normal part of my, yes.
That's wonderful.
And it just grew on me. It was just part of my daily routine. And then after, as I got in more and my faith kept growing, and I got my own vehicle. I went to Mass on a weekend in the parish and even on Sunday, so it became part of my daily routine to go to Mass.
As it should be for everybody, huh? Oh gosh, how do people live without God? I don't know.
But that was a very interesting experience and very good to begin my day with Mass. So it's a natural progression when I enter into religion, so I will continue that.
Right. Now, you were a Spiritan father, or you still belong?
I am, yes. I am.
Tell us how you chose that particular religious community.
Well, as I said, Father Knots had a great influence on me. In fact, when we spoke for the first time, I was such a local person and Caribbean man. So I think he thought, and I thought the natural step would be the regional seminary, because I was thinking diocesan priesthood. But because of his influence and belonging to a congregation, he's also a Spiritan. In fact, he had sent some other youngsters to a common-see, and they told me that. I say, he said, but I thought you wanted to be a diocesan. I said, no, I'm interested. So I did one, and I was, I think, I felt very interested, and that was where I was being called to. In fact, I would say when I went to their formation house in Aruca, it's a normal modern day house,
Right.
So that sense of not these seminaries with long corridors. So even that the whole
It
setup,
felt like coming home.
Yes, our formation was done in that sense, like a big family, of course, with the director and so on. But it's like a more family setting. We do our formation in, and of course a smaller community.
Yes. And then once you joined, I know you were on mission in Mexico. How soon did that happen after you were ordained?
Yes, I was ordained in January of 1996, and by November, the 11th of November, I left here, 1996, for mission. Initially, the first appointment was for 3 years, and I told my dad, look, I'm going for 3 years. And I was very clear, it was going to be 3 years, nothing more. In fact, I wanted to stay in Trinidad, but there was this option. I thought about it, reflected about it, and I said, I'm going on mission, but let me do it for 3 years.
Because
it turned out to 19.
Spiritans are a missionary order.
Yes, and
so 3 years turned into 19 years.
Yes, 19 years. It was a very, very good experience. Of course, I went into a totally different
culture.
Yes.
Did you speak any Spanish?
Not at all. And
wow.
I really didn't like Spanish. I preferred French.
Okay.
So
but God had other plans.
Exactly. You respond. And it's a totally different culture. 3 years would be a very short time. So it was 3 years, but you stayed there 3 months. So by the time you're now getting understanding, entering, if I'd left, I thought it wasn't complete. And I said, no. But I enjoyed it from day one. There were the difficulties at the beginning, but I really got into it.
Especially in the language, I would think.
Of course.
Yeah. So from the first day, you knew that you were enjoying that experience. You liked where you were.
I had my difficulties. No, going on mission. Right. No. Okay. There were difficult moments, very, very difficult moments, and but which is normal. But within about 3 months, I settled in and decided this is for me. Okay. I remember Father Harris paying me a visit, we chatting about it and so on, and I decided I'm staying. Okay.
So the decisions to stay on longer than 3 years really came from you then?
Oh yes. Yeah. It's a whole process, You're getting to understand the culture, the language, you're entering into your work, and I find it's very important. It is your work, that is where you're called, and it's part of you now. And I always work with young people, and that was also very interesting for me. And then I knew, well, the then parish priest was Father Curtis Poyer,
Right.
who was about to leave to studies, and it was suggested I be the parish. And I thought about it, and one thing from the next. And I stayed it, and it was 19 years. I didn't know when it happened.
That just passed like.
You know, it's 19 years, and sometimes I check, what was it 19? Okay, it's 19 years. It just passed very fast.
No,
But very enjoyable years.
And you were immediately immersed into the language for starters.
You had not a choice.
You just had to learn.
Like when I arrived, you know, I had about 2 weeks of visiting the communities, the rural communities, work with the indigenous people there. And then I was off to language school for 6 weeks, totally cut off for the rest of the community. And at language school, I spent my first birthday alone away from Trinidad in this language school, Christmas and New Year's.
Wow.
You know, so it was really a baptism.
Difficult, yes. Now the other people at the language school would be English-speaking people from...
The majority. In fact, when I went down there, there was a school, a college from students from the United States. It was normal for them to go down and get credits. They left before Christmas.
Yeah,
There were
so you
just
really
few of
felt-
us. I remember there's a lady from Germany and other people, and we got along. It was a new experience, but I think they also left before Christmas. I think they were still there for my birthday, but for Christmas,
gosh.
you know.
Yes.
But no, it was very interesting, you know. I remember going to mass, you know, and I had a young teacher. So we met at church casually. So we're walking back, and he says, "What are you going to do now?" I said, "Well, I'm going to bed, you know." He said, "What?" I said something wrong. He said, no, that's not possible. We are all meeting at our aunt's house. You're going with me. And I'm very obedient. I went with him. And Christmas Day is a big family as here, but it's the 24th. It's not the 25th. The big celebration begins on the 24th. So, and I spent this with the whole family. It was a big celebration. And it's all night, you know. So I remember we left there about 4:30 to take me to my house. So it was a good experience.
Yes.
And I got home. Then, so he said, "What are you doing for New Year's?" I said, "Well, so I'll invite you. My family wants to come back." Fine. And we reached him a little later.
Because now you really know them.
Yeah, so it's a very nice celebration, family time, dancing and enjoying the time. And that was my immersion into the Christmas time there, New Year's, which I've always lived, and I really enjoy. You know. Actually, I miss that.
Yes. And I'm sure that over the years, of course, you've made many, many friends, both in the parish. And
yes. Yes, it's... You know, I would say to people, you're a missionary. I have no blood relatives here, but I was never lonely. And you do have a lot of family. In fact, I work with young people. And as I was leaving, they had to reflect, and we look at the pictures. I got them very young, 15, 16. They're now married. I married them. I baptized the children. So I have a lot of grandchildren. And, you know, I brought some pictures where they had good affair for me. And they said, "Let's just put the children." So I'm there with the whole group, and they all consider my grandchildren. So, and that is a beautiful thing, a beautiful experience. As I said, you become their pastor, their priest, they become your people. And I said, if I had to give my life here, I'll do that. And that sense of understanding church, understanding God, going to people who don't even look like you, everything is different, but there's that trust and that development of a relationship.
And this is the family of God, brothers and sisters.
Exactly. You understand that the gospel very often came alive for me because I was in a different culture. And in speaking to some friends, if I was leaving, I said, you know, if I didn't come to Mexico, I don't think I'd have a relationship with the Holy Spirit. Although he's the patron of our congregation, as I did. You see, you're moving from the known to the unknown. And you just have to learn to trust and trust in that spirit. In fact, when I was leaving, I said to myself, I remember a brother asking me, he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I don't know." "Who picked me up?" He said, Oli, you're brave enough. But at that time, I said, "Look, I'm going with my hands open and trusting in the Spirit." And I did, you know. And I'm very, very thankful for that.
Praise
those
God.
19 years of mission in
Mexico.
And I could have spent my whole life in Mexico, actually.
But once again, God had another plan.
Yes, I came.
So once again, you just said it, you're moving from the known to the unknown. So after 19 years in Mexico, even though you're coming back to the Caribbean, you're going to a different island. And once again, it was another move into the unknown.
When I came back to Trinidad, I came back to have some sabbatical time,
Mm-hmm.
6 months, and I know where I was going with that, everything planned out, and about 2 or 3 years study. That was my plan.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, to have quality time and spend time with my dad. In fact, when I came back and my dad is 96, I said, Lord, I don't think I could tell him
I'm going anywhere again.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And things change, you know. So
what did you feel when you got that news that you were appointed bishop?
well, yes. That's a good question.
What is the first thought that came to mind, or that you could share with us?
Well, actually, when they tell you, you know, it's kind of
A shock.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
You know, people talking to you in the air, you know, like I think an investigation was done in Mexico, and people would ask you, what are you going to do? And I really don't understand. You know, what are they?
Yeah.
After I understand what was happening.
Yes.
But when you're actually told and you really, the confirmation is there, yes, something else happened, it was, you're in shock, but I would say it was a time of great grace for me.
Yeah.
You said the right words. And yes, I'll never forget that. It was a time of great grace for me. And very grace, but
Yes. You had to face the challenge. And then they moved now to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Right, so actually, yes, and I remember leaving here to go to Mexico on the 11th of November. So I said the 11th of February is Our Lady of Lourdes, you know.
Right.
I'll take that date. But then I realized that was just one day after Ash Wednesday. I said, look, I think I need to begin in Ash Wednesday, Lent with them. So I left on Carnival Tuesday. My friends, Carnival Tuesday? Yes, I'm leaving on Carnival Tuesday. And I left Carnival Tuesday while everybody was heading to town early in the morning. Father Gerard took me to the airport. I had no problems with that. Being on mission or being in another country, that's not a problem for me at all. So going to live, in fact, I thought I had a missionary bug, so that wasn't too difficult. But new circumstances of bishop, that is new.
Of course, that's
and was different for me. And I'm still that learning process, you know. But taking it in stride and trusting the Spirit.
One day at a time.
Of course.
But of course, Trinity TV was there for the ordination. And we were over here watching it live in our coffee shop and seeing you with tears running down your face. And you made us cry as we look at you.
Well, everybody told me that they were crying and so on. Yes. It was a very prayerful time. I remember the last thing after leaving, before we started to go in procession, Bishop Robert Liana said, Gerard just enjoyed it. I remember that. And, but it's really a prayerful time. You know, I really enjoyed it, but it was a very prayerful, very prayerful time for me.
You could just feel God and the Holy Spirit there just ministering to you.
It was very beautiful and prayerful time for me.
But of course, your father, because of his age, he couldn't.
No, he
make
couldn't
it to
travel.
St. Vincent.
No, he couldn't travel. He looked at it on television. And my brothers, 2 brothers who stayed. My big brother told me, he said I couldn't come. I think he cried through the whole.
It's a family of criers.
Well, I think it's something that my father did very easily, so it's not that difficult for us. In a sense, you don't plan it; it just happens. It depends. It's a very deep emotional time, you know, to do that. As one father, my good friend Father Gerard, said, "That's his spirit," you know, and I trust in that.
And now, starting to work now in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I think for quite a few years, from 2007 to 2011, there was no bishop. And then Bishop Jason Gordon was there sharing that with Barbados. So I know that they were happy when, of course, Bishop Gordon came. At last we have a bishop, and now they have a bishop. They're not sharing him with a resident bishop.
And our bishop, yes.
So they're happy about that.
Yes, I am happy also. Again, I find myself like 19 years ago in that process. Although I'm from the Caribbean, I have to respect it's a new country. There are similarities in the culture, and you have to respect and know that. I had to do that in Mexico even more. And things are going along. I'm learning, I'm getting my feet wet, and we are meeting the new groups. But that process of looking and listening and trying to keep them out shut. Because you have to understand, it's very important you understand before talking. And in that process, it will take at least 6 months. It's not nothing is happening. I am trying to assimilate, understand things as I did.
Which is important. The Holy Father says that all the time. You have to listen.
And then if you remember the nuncio's message, listen to the people. And many people remember that and they say, you remember when you listen. And that is very important, you know. you are there, you're living, you're entering, but it's important to listen and to understand your culture. I believe in that.
Right.
To talk before, you know, it could be very disrespectful
yourself
and
into
think you
trouble.
know everything, and that's
Yes.
not so.
Yes.
I really believe in that process of understanding and trying to understand. You know, and you will understand as you go along. But because it's new to me, I think it's very important to
to
listening and
listen
learning
for a while.
and mixing with the people and listening to them. You know, you learn so much.
Now, I know one of the things I always have to remind myself is that it's St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's very easy to talk about
Yes.
St. Vincent and leave out the Grenadines. So you have to be careful about that.
Oh, I'm very careful. Very.
I don't know how we do it because the Grenadines is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, heaven on earth.
You're so right.
Yeah.
Just with regards to that, you know, I went to visit on the 2nd of January to about the 9th to get to know people and meet with the government officials, the Governor General, the Prime Minister, leader of the opposition groups, and so on. And one sister, Sister Jacinta, who is from the Grenadines, said, Bishop, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes.
And from then I learned that, you know, you have to. It's very important.
Yes, it is. And you can understand why.
Of course, and very early in the mandate, I think within 1 week or 2 weeks, I went down. I went to the Southern Grenadines. There are 2 parishes.
Oh gosh. But somebody has to do it.
Of course, and I'm willingly doing it.
Yes.
That consists of Canawan, Myro, and Union. So I spent a week there. That was a deliberate decision. I told them that to come down, and then the next weekend I visited Beckway.
Oh gosh, I have to say poor you again.
Oh yeah, so I invited one of my priest friends from Dublin. So he came and said, Gerard, this is paradise.
Yes.
I said, I'd like you to go down for a few days to the Grenadines. He said, this is paradise, rediscovered.
That's right, that's right.
So yes, it's very beautiful. It's I enjoy that. In fact, you know, I thought, you know, when I returned to Trinidad, you know, I'd love like the Toko Matlot. I like being by the sea.
Yeah,
when I have a difficult problem, put me by any body of water.
Yes, it's very peaceful and
So
calming.
and I said, Lord, I really didn't ask for this,
Yes,
but you know,
but you got
it's
the best
really
of-
beautiful and helps in praying and so on. A very nice environment. I'm thankful to God for that.
But of course, you will spend most of your time in the main island of St. Vincent.
Of course, and I visited in March, so I'm preparing another visit. I like to visit the Grenadines at least every 3 months.
Right.
And of course, like some will be going on vacation and so on, so I will fill in, so I'll have that opportunity. But yes, my plan is to be very often in the Grenadines so that the water, they don't feel because they're
That's
separated
it, I mean,
water.
that's it,
You know,
that's
they're
it.
part of it.
Yes.
They're part of the church there.
Now, what do you see as perhaps any of the challenges you might have to face in leading the church in St. Vincent?
You know, of course, when I was appointed, and one priest asked me, how do you feel moving from such Catholic majority?
In Mexico.
And I said, no, I'm very aware that we are a minority group, but I'm very challenged by that. I think that is it's a whole different ball game to play. I'm looking forward to that, but I think that'd be a challenge for me and for our community. It's a small community. And being very inspired by Pope Francis, and I like pastoral, being very near to the people, and working from the bottom up.
Right,
You know.
right.
That is very challenging. I haven't got answers as yet, but I'm looking forward to that. And I'm not fazed by the fact that we are minority. I think
You know what
there's something about
percentage
that.
of Catholics there are in
I think
St.
it's
Vincent?
6%, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Yes.
But
So my
as you say,
parish
it's
was a lot bigger, you know, but that is, it's not important.
Yeah, as you say, it's a challenge, but
I think that's challenging.
an
As church
exciting
and a
challenge.
small community.
Yes, yes.
You know, and I always like, you know, in times of Easter, you're reading from the Acts of the Apostles, you know,
Yes.
and to be inspired by that also. No, I'm challenged, but I'm looking forward to that actually.
And then you talked about when you were in Mexico working with the youth. So
Yes.
apparently you like working with young people.
Well, I started that in Samo, following on Enoch. When I was getting involved, we would go to the youth with another lady, Mrs. Williams. And I've always worked with youth in Samo, in Aruque, where I trained. And I did that in Mexico, so when I went.
So you're bringing some of that experience. to
Yes,
St.
yes.
Vincent.
So I always think, you know, as you get older, you have to leave the youth work there. But at the end of the day, it's communication, the ability to communicate
right.
with them, not with young people and with everybody. I think it's communication. And yes, they will be there. I always believe they have to be a part of the church decision making.
Yeah.
So it's not the youth and elite on one side. They are part of the church and part of the decision-making.
Because they're the future of the church.
Of course, and you have to listen to them. You have to listen
and then,
to them also.
of course, you bring your wisdom to share with them. So
yes, my experience,
experience.
experience in a mission, another culture and so on. Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
I read something humorous, I'm trying to remember, somewhere on the net. I think it was an American priest who wrote about you having to get a car that they want you to drive a stick shift or something.
So I went there.
St. Vincent.
Yes, well, one American priest, he has been able to raise funds and to get my vehicle, thanks be to God. I'm very thankful for it. And he's looking to partner with St. Vincent in pastoral and other areas. There was a big vehicle and stick shift, but I personally feel more comfortable in
automatic, yeah.
They said stick shift for the hills is better, but I just feel more comfortable. Although I drove a stick shift in Mexico, it's a different thing. But I think in this case, you know,
well, I remember reading this and laughing because he read it in a very humorous way.
Yes, because it's the terrain is different. But as you live there and you get accustomed to it, everybody's driving in this type of area. You have to get into it. Well, I have not driven as yet.
Oh, you have? Oh, all right. So we're talking about something that will happen.
Yes, I'll do it. Yes.
But you have to get used to it because it's very
When I went to the Grenadines, I was driving around in a golf cart, and going up hills and down. As you do it, you lose your fear for heights. I think that's my problem. But I'll get into it. Everybody's doing it.
Well, you seem very willing to get into whatever.
Oh yes, when you're on mission, you have to get your hands into it.
That's right.
Things were different for me in Mexico, but you just get into it, and it becomes part of you.
And how many priests do you have working with you?
10 priests.
Oh, that's
and
not
6
so bad.
deacons, and I thank God for them.
Yes, amen to that.
Very
because
good.
I think most of the islands now and the world are struggling in many areas with the shortage of priests.
Yes, and I remember my superior here tells me, I don't know what I asked him. He said, I think St. Vincent is well served.
Yes.
He's telling me, don't ask, because I don't have.
Yes.
10 at this time seems to be enough for us. We have...
You can work with that.
Yes. I think we might need 1 or 2 more. That would help us, but I think we can work with that. We have 2 missionaries from the Philippines and 2 from Nigeria, and the rest are locals.
Right, yeah.
And very thankful for God for the clergy, the priests and the deacons, and getting along well and getting to know them also. And I think we're all willing for the new challenge.
Right.
Continue the work of evangelization.
And not too long ago in St. Vincent, they had the synod.
Oh yes, so we are in the process of implementing synod.
Right,
so I thank Bishop Gordon. I said, thank you. Thank you. You did
the
work. And we're in that process of synod implementation. So that is a great help. So I have that document to look through and we are implementing. So we had a good time there for me. I thank him for having done the groundwork.
For you. Well, we just want to thank you for taking the time while you're here in Trinidad to come and to be with us here on Trinity Update, so that now our viewers have a little insight into who Bishop Gerard County is, and I'm sure that we will have another opportunity to talk to you, if not in Trinidad and St. Vincent.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very welcome.
Thank you.
Come and visit us.
Okay.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
All right. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I'm sure you are looking on, and Barbados, Grenada, whoever else, but this is the Bishop of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Amen. That's it for us here on Trinity Update.